Hey, it's Steve Riley. Welcome to this episode of Great Practice, Great Life. And today I have a special guest, a renowned trial attorney, to talk not only about how he built a great practice, how he's pursuing his great life, but how he made a major pivot that resulted in a record-setting trial verdict. So we've got a lot to talk about. So with that, David, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Steve. It's my pleasure.
So let's just do some basics. Let's tell everybody where you're at, what you do, and so people kind of have a framework of what your practice is. And then I'm going to ask about how you got started. Like, what was the inspiration for you becoming a trial attorney?
Sure. Well, I'm a 40-year practicing attorney. Throughout my entire career, I've done trial work and litigation. Now, primarily, we have a small firm with 3 lawyers, and we do a lot of plaintiff's medical malpractice and some catastrophic injury, representing people who have been injured or hurt as a result of the negligence of others.
Perfect. So, and you are a classic trial attorney. So while some lawyers say that they're a trial attorney, you are trying cases on a regular basis. So it's one of the things I really respect about you. And so you have a great story, though, how you chose to be a trial attorney. So how did this become a passion and career for you?
Well, when I was a kid, until I was about 12 or 13, my dream was to play third base for the Chicago Cubs. That still would be my dream. But um, by the time I was 13, I realized that I was short, and although a decent baseball player, I was never going to be that good. And at that point in time, I decided I want to be a trial lawyer. And one of the things that really helped convince me, in my 8th grade English class, Mr. Shutt had us read out loud the play Inherit the Wind about the Scopes monkey trial. And for about the last 70% of the play, which is about 150 pages long, Mr. Shutt had me play the Clarence Darrow role. And I loved every second of it. And from then on, I knew I wanted to be a trial lawyer.
And you've had health challenges throughout your whole career, and it's been one of the things that has plagued you. But at the same time, it's been one of the things that's made you exceptionally determined and very courageous. A lot of people, I think, would wave the white flag a couple of different times, during the career because of their health issue. But for you, it actually gave you, I think, a level of empathy. Uh,
I think that's true. There was only one time I can actually think that I was ready to just chuck it. By the junior year of college, when I was sick again for the 3rd year in a row, and I was at University of Chicago Hospital for like 3 weeks. I was very fortunate to have the best gastroenterologist in the world at the time. And in those days, back in the 1970s, they would keep Crohn's patients in the hospital for months at a time. It wasn't like it is today. And my gastroenterologist understood that that was not a good thing for me. And I went back to school. In order to go back to school, you only allowed me to take one course in that winter. And I was on 5 different medications to try and treat the Crohn's disease. And I wasn't allowed to eat. All I was able to consume for about a month and a half was a vitamin packet that would be mixed with water and a little sherbet. And for 6 weeks, that's what I lived on. Theory being that it would give the intestines a chance to rest. And by resting them, allow the medication to take effect. Because I had inflammatory bowel disease that was active when I was 11, 12, 13, all through high school, first few years of college. They sent me back to school in Michigan State, with the cold weather and everything, allowing me to take one course, and I got better. I didn't always stay better, but I got better and I was able to finish school.
What age did you make this pivot when you decided to go ahead and open up your solo practice at the time? You rented space from another attorney, and it was basically you and a phone.
It was me and a phone. I was 42, almost 43. And for the first couple months, my wife came in a couple days a week and helped out. And I I wasn't sure how to like to start, but I always knew you just asked for business.
Well, let's
And
talk about that because it's one thing that you and I have talked about before. And a lot of lawyers, regardless of where they're at, the type of practice that they have, this is something they're either hesitant to do or afraid to do. But talk to me about the simple ask for business approach that you took.
well, I contacted everybody I knew, let them know I was on my own. I knew at the time I wasn't going to be able to yet make a living doing medical malpractice cases. So in the beginning, I was doing commercial litigation with the intention to build a plaintiff's medical malpractice practice. And what I did, I'm sure a marketer would say this is not what you do because it was too much, but I put together, it was somewhere between 8 to 10 pages, single space letter that said, I'm on my own. Here's my successes over the last 5, 6 years. There were 12 of them, including 7-figure copyright infringement case, 7-figure independent sales rep case, and all kinds of other things that I had done, including a couple medical malpractice cases I had resolved while I was prior firm. And not only did I send it to everybody I knew and my wife knew and my father, who's a lawyer, knew, I got the listing of names and addresses of every single lawyer in the Illinois Trial Lawyers Association, which is the Plaintiffs Trial Lawyers Association in Illinois. And I sent them this letter too. And and I got, the first thing I got was a lawyer that I had worked with before, but wasn't my client or my referral source at the prior firm, called me up and said, David, this is great timing. And Jay started sending me business, all different kinds of business. And we developed a really good friendship and a really good relationship. And one of the things I always did with all the lawyers that I got to know and anybody else was I tried to be generous with my time. I can't tell you how many times Jay and several other lawyers, probably 30 or 40 or 50 over the years, would call me and say, what do you think about this, David? And what do you think about that? I have a client that has this issue going on. What are your thoughts about it? And I never did respond and give them the time that they needed. And so, and then I followed up that letter by when I met people, I invited them to lunch or out for coffee. I don't drink coffee, but, and, or dinners or taking them to a Cubs game or whatever, just so that I have the opportunity to say, look, I'm really good. My selling point was always, I'm really good and I'll be there for you. Send me business, please.
So this is one of my favorite stories, and I want to take some time with it because I love this story. And you are renting space as a solo. You've taken the risk, and you're renting from an attorney who his name's John Malloy, right? And you're renting from John, and occasionally you would ask John for referrals. He would ask John for business, right? And he would send you cases.
It was actually a little different than that.
Okay.
So when I rented the space, Johnny was not the lawyer who took care of finding subtenants. And I didn't know who Johnny was. He's a very well-known plaintiff's attorney. He's a former Chicago cop. He has connections. Can't believe the connections he has. And I was renting space in his suite, and he noticed that how hard I was working. And there was another lawyer in the suite named Kevin, who I had, I believe, opposed a few years earlier and got along with really well. And Johnny asked Kevin about me, and Kevin said, David's a really good lawyer. You should give him a chance. And so every so often I would get a call, or my assistant would get a call and say, Johnny wants to talk to you. And I would go in his office and he'd have 3 or 4 files he wanted to talk to me about. And one of them involved a man who was 75 years old with the wrong pills and put in a prescription bottle by a Walgreens in the Chicago suburbs. And this man took those pills. He was supposed to get what's called allopurinol, which battles gout. Instead, glipizide was put into the bottle. Glipizide is an anti-diabetes medication that lowers blood sugar. And as a result, my client ended up in a diabetic coma after 2 days of taking this medication and with permanent kidney disease, so that he had to go on dialysis. And that's how I got the case and how Johnny would send me cases. And we've become very close over the years, but he didn't know me from Adam. And it's kind of funny because Johnny is this big Irish, 6 foot, 250-pound guy. And I'm, of course, this little Jewish 5'5", 150-pound guy. So we don't look or act like we'd be partners, so to speak, but it's been a great partnership all these years.